Hey footy fans, welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host Dave, and today we have a very special guest on the couch. We're going back in the day. He's a bit of a larrikin, he's a bit of a crazy fella, but he's one of the most inspiring people I've ever met. The one and only Gary Endacott. How you going, buddy?
Good, mate. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's awesome to have you here. Not only that, you're a Cantabrian. It's great to have another Cantabrian on the show. I'm loving living down here in Christchurch. Have you always been down here?
Yeah, I've always been Canterbury lamb, and very proud of the fact that I come from Christchurch, and grew up out at Hornby and High, so pretty proud of that factor as well, to be honest.
Nice. Yeah, like Hornby, the people out there have been pretty cool. Been down the club to pick up some stuff there. They're pretty choice people.
Yeah, no, mate, they're staunch leagueies and they're good people, and one thing you learn pretty quickly if you want to get in some trouble somewhere, don't get into trouble out at home, because there's 3 and 4 generation families go through there, and it's not a great idea if you're from out of town, that's for sure.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so when you're not off conquering mountains and carving up on the footy field, what do you get up to these days?
I'm disability advisor for the Ministry of Education. Well, my job title is disability facilitator, but I think that I'm a disability advisor first and foremost. Mm-hmm. So I get the privilege of working with young people with every different type of disability you can think of, really? Making sure they get a fair go in the school system, and there's a bit of sorting their attitudes out, and obviously you need to be available to the parents and stuff like that. Because a million books you can buy on how to look after a child, but you chuck disability in the mix. If I look at some of the stuff around cerebral palsy, Dave, that's been put in books, I've tried to throw at least 80% of it out the window.
Wow. So what would you say are some of the challenges, but also some of the rewards that come with doing what you do?
One of the challenges is actually working for a government department.
I can imagine.
I'm probably not quite as politically correct as I'd like.
No.
I need to make sure that I make a difference. Nice. I'm never there to win a popularity contest, and I explain that to the families and the young people when I start with them. I'm not here to tell you, what you want to hear. I'm here to try and make a difference, and everything I do in my job is what I deem is in the best interest of the young person. So if that means you have to hold a parent accountable, or a sibling, or somebody with a disability accountable, or the system, then so be it.
I love that you're got that personality and boldness to just say what needs to be said,
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm probably lucky. I get reasonably good feedback, and that's not always that common when you represent a government department. So, I think that might have saved me on a couple of occasions.
So, has there been any super wonderful experiences through doing this job that you can think of?
Oh, look. Actually, several. My job is potentially life-changing. Wow. And I feel very privileged. And, while we're talking about work, I'd have to say, getting into a decent job is a bigger obstacle than actually trying to get into a decent relationship. What I did find with work was, a lot of people come across you in life you get on well with, and, there's a certain percentage of those people that like you, but where money's involved, I'm supposed to be as big, as quick, as fast as you. Yeah. And thank God I can talk faster than most people, and that's what I'm pretty much doing for a job. So, But look, I have some young people that I've been involved with all different situations, and some of those people are in their 30s now, and I really actually enjoy my job. I don't enjoy some of the stuff that goes with it. And sometimes dealing with schools can be hard work, but I'm the only one in the country that does this job, which is a bit disappointing, really. But the reality is, Dave, if there's one, I'm quite glad it's me.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. So let's wind the clock back all the way to the beginning. I think it's fair to say you got off to a much harder start than most in life. Born with cerebral palsy, and your parents were basically told that you wouldn't be able to walk, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
In a wheelchair, basically, destined for a wheelchair.
Yep. Yet here you are, you're walking, you're a footy player, you're a marathoner, you're a mountain climber, you're a world champion tennis player. Can you take us all the way back to your early days of your childhood and tell us how you managed to defy the odds.
I had a great childhood. We're brought up out at high. And look, I have to put my hand up early on in the piece. I've got an exceptionally good family, exceptionally good parents. And, it's no secret my father's, reasonably well known. Mm-hmm. And, he's clearly a good person to have on your side. But I'd rather take a bullet train on from 5 yards and get on the wrong side of my mother. She's she's someone that get up every day and think, some people pray to God. I get up and think, oh, geez, I'm glad Mum's on my side because, out of everyone in my life, I think she's given me the best advice and probably understood the most around my situation.
Right. And was she someone that was one of your main influences growing up?
Yeah, no, they were. My family were big influences. I've got 3 brothers, and I think it would have been a lot harder growing up with this level of disability and being an only child because I believe there would have been a reasonably big chance of being all about me, Yep. I personally would have preferred getting the next week's, winning lotto numbers as opposed to having cerebral palsy, but what the secret is everyone's got something in their life that they find difficult or they'd love to get rid of. And, I just, at the end of the day, mate, I didn't want my diagnosis of cerebral palsy to be licensed to underachieve. Okay. But it is a factor, of, that I need to take into account. I mean, these politically correct people that say, when you've got a disability, just concentrate on the ability. They're talking shit. Yep. If you broke your arm tomorrow, not a good time to have a boxing fight, and you got to take that into account. So I need to take my disability into account because if I don't, then get some obstacles in life that you can't change. Well, you're going to come unstuck. So I really started life very early in the piece thinking I got cerebral palsy and I was super unlucky how I got it, but I could have gone through life thinking, gee, I'm unlucky to have it, and I thought I'm actually lucky that it's not a lot worse because I'm at the more mild, moderate end of the scale as opposed to the severe. Right.
So what were some of the things like your parents did to help you when you were like right from a young age to help you to walk and things like that?
My mum taught me to walk by stepping over pegs.
Really?
Yep. And and if I knock one over, she'd just give me just not a smack, but a tap on the bum to say concentrate.
Right.
And she used to have me walking up the kitchen in later years when I had better balance, walking on my heels. And just give you an example, we love sport in our family, and Mum and Dad were always believers of do the hard yards first. So a lot of young people I come across now don't like doing their exercises, and Mum would plonk me on the kitchen table and I'd be watching the boys outside with Dad playing cricket or throwing a football around or whatever, and I'd do my exercises and Mum say, oh, I want to go out with my brothers, and she'd say, you do the exercise and that, otherwise when you get out there you'll be useless pretty much.
Right.
And a lot of people wouldn't do that, but geez, that's the way to go around it, And so I never argued with any of that. Right. And yeah, I mean, mate, you had parents like I had. There's no discussion. They tell you to do it. Yeah. You do it, but luckily for me, 99 times out of 100, they give me bloody good advice.
That's amazing. So moving forward a little bit, what did your schooling look like? Was it, I mean, there's no getting around it. It must have been hard, like getting into a school and all the stuff that comes with that. Like, tell us how that went for you.
Well, I went to a school called Gilthorpe's Primary, which, and that day was sort of on the edge of the country, so like a wee country school. And, all the local kids went there. And 2 of my brothers had, been to school there. And in those days, things were a wee bit more, weren't quite the same level of understanding, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And so we went along not long before I started school, and Mum said, Gary's here to enrol. We thought he'd come along a couple of days early and just let you know his circumstance. And we're having a conversation with this teacher that, you know, I thought was going fairly well. And, you know, Dave, the carpentry pencils.
Yeah.
It just thought everything was going, when we're about to leave it, and then this teacher said, if Gary wants to come into my class, he needs to use his pencils, and he passed them over to my mum, and it's like a bundle of carpentry pencils.
Yeah.
And mum said, well, actually, he's using the same pencil as his brothers, and until you prove to me that he needs different pencils, then he'll use the ones his brother's using. And she said, and the teacher said, well, you're lucky that he's even coming to our school, because, you know, we've only just decided. And mum went, we decided a couple of years ago when his brothers were coming there. And she said, can I have a closer look at those pencils? Teacher passed them over to her, and she snapped them and threw them back at the teacher. And I'm thinking, geez, I've got to be in front of this lady in a couple of days. You know, just further on my schooling too, I had a couple of people that I actually think made my schooling journey a lot easier. I had a girl that lived around the road, whose name at the time was Vanessa Alexander, good Hornby girl, and she was put in, you know, she probably doesn't realise this, but they said you can, you know, we're going to put somebody that you know through your primary school when you went to intermediate and stuff. Okay. And she was in I think all my classes at school, and it was just good to have somebody that you knew all the way through. And then I had a guy who was large in life, big Tongan boy called Billy Serpopo, right. And a good league player actually, and a big boy, and he was like my bodyguard through school, because if I had any issues with people at school, it was quite often either the kids that you would never think would give you shit, or it was quite often, you know, especially at intermediate and high school, was new kids coming to the school, but thanks to Dad, because, you know, most people knew in Hornby not to mess with Dad, so that sort of saved me a wee bit at high school, and you know, he had the league connection, and but yeah, Billy Sapopo, there wasn't too much of me being picked on, and you combine that with my brothers, you know, and I got in a few skirmishes myself, even had a couple of victories a couple of times. Probably hit the person from behind, but you don't let the details get in the way of the result, do you? So
doesn't have to be a fair fight if you
No, that's right. Yeah, so but I'd have to say I found the intermediate stage of my schooling the hardest, but I think it helped me prepare for high school, because I had to probably prove myself all over again, because you go from your primary school where 99% of people know you, to I went into the high school. And, you know, it'd be lucky if it was 10% that knew you. But, I certainly look back on my childhood and my schooling days relatively fondly.
That's incredible. I love that. Shout out to you, Billy.
Yeah, good on you, Billy. You're the reason why I'm still in one piece, mate.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to your sporting life. When and what sport did you first start playing? What got you into it?
I actually started playing soccer. Which I originally wasn't that overly thrilled about. Yep. You know, because, mate, you know, I might have been off balance and I mightn't be able to walk very well, you know, for a number of years. But, you know, I loved confrontation. I loved impact. From a very young age, I wanted to play league. But, you know, I had to start up at something else, and the soccer club were very accommodating. They let me play back a year on my grade, and I started off as a centre back, and pretty much, to be honest, people, you know, run it with the ball. Well, I wasn't really looking at the ball. It just like stop, you know, whatever. And then because I used to fall over a lot, I got put into goalie and was reasonably successful. Well, actually, without sounding cocky, very successful at that, because I was used to hitting the ground and you know, falling over. You know, so I could get down to the deck quite quick. Right. The only issue was where most people, you know, goalkeeper will run up and do a big punt kick downfield. I could certainly throw the ball further than I could kick it. So that was the option that I took. But I didn't let too many goals through. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I loved it.
Okay, so what came next? What was the next big
Probably went down to the local tennis club.
Right.
And because in those days I didn't know about the disabled tennis. In fact, really, to be honest, it wasn't around. And we were down at the local tennis club, and my brothers and that played down there. My brother, Frank / Mad Dog, we call him, he was a really good tennis player, so I used to go down and hit with him. But yeah, we got to the stage where, I was probably, don't quote me on this, but I was probably getting around, sort of 12, somewhere around that, and starting to play. I was getting run around in the singles and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And then one particular year, because what I haven't said was, one of my early goals was to win a trophy for something,
Okay.
And so I was playing tennis this year, and I was pretty much getting hammered, And anyway, at the tennis awards, I went along, and there's this new trophy here donated to the club, called Sports Person of the Year Award, right?
Right.
And little beknownst to me, Mum and Dad had saved their pennies up because we didn't have a lot of money when we were growing up, right. And they bought a trophy and donated it to the tennis club, and I won it, right? So
awesome.
Mum and Dad thought, geez, Gary's going to be excited about this. He's finally, won a trophy, rah, rah.
Yeah.
And, Sports Person of the Year, Dad's saying, it's not many better trophies. You can win that's, better than that. And I thought, like hell, mate, that's not the type of trophy I want. And, I'd done the old posing, and I can still tell you the clothes I had on now, holding the trophy up. And then I thought, I got a bit upset actually, and I said to myself, no, I want to win a proper bloody trophy, I want to win for being first,
Right. Yep, fair enough.
Like, to me, getting second's like kissing your sister and thinking you're a chick magnet, So you meet halfway and you try and kiss somebody else's sister, but I just really didn't see it as winning a proper trophy at the time. And so the girl across the road was a pretty good tennis player called Rachel Leary, and I thought, well, I'm going to go and ask her if she wants to be my mixed doubles partner, because she normally won the girls' singles and all that. Went across the road, and she actually said yes.
Wow.
Well, I tell you what, and we ended up winning the... we ended up winning the mixed doubles at the tennis club. Okay. And she was such a nice girl that, because, Dad's going 6 months each with the trophy, she let me, keep the trophy for the whole 12 months.
Oh, God.
So, just highlighted some good people out there. And, but, like, I get so excited. I was very enthusiastic from a very young age. And one thing I've never really told a lot of people, and because it's a hard thing to explain, but even when I was playing soccer, to begin with, in the early years, there was no way you were going to get Player of the Year or whatever. You might get Most Improved or something like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when I think about it now, and I go back, I went along to those soccer barbecues and for Hornby Soccer, and they're reading out the awards, and I really still sat there and thought, well, geez, I'm in a chance for Player of the Year here. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't pick me for Player of the Year, but I'm just saying, just as a kid, you still think like a kid. Yeah. And I just, I'm running scenarios into, who's going to get most improved and that, in my head and stuff. And I've never really come out with that too much, probably until now, but it's just highlighting that's how I used to think. Not that it was all about winning, but, I still had to enjoy my time as a child, and even though you were born into a serious situation, still, that part of me was still letting me be a child and thinking I was in with a show, which, I
love that. I relate to that. That's me as a kid as well. Yeah. That competitiveness as well as being a child, Yeah.
Yeah. So, the soccer was good for me though, because it was a team sport, and because I don't think I ended up playing league until I was probably 20, and I think it was 20, 19, going on 20, and so if I was dumb about it, I could have sat there and thought, well, I've got to wait till my balance gets better and I get strong enough to play league, because that was always my goal in the back of my head, but never pushed by my family. Mm-hmm. Okay. I was pushed to do a sport, but I was never told what sport to do.
Yeah, Oh, nice. So, tennis, that was your first trophy where you actually won something, but what heights did that take you to further on with your tennis?
Well, I went to Japan, which is if you were in the wheelchair tennis, you can be in the ATP Professional Tennis Tour.
Okay.
And because I'm so inflexible, I actually qualified to play sports in a wheelchair.
Okay.
But I won't do it. And it's probably cost me going to, a couple of Paralympics.
Wow.
But the reality is, I personally, and I've been publicly criticised for this, don't feel comfortable taking the place of somebody that can't walk.
Fair enough. I get that.
And, at least the stuff that I've done, my disability has been, still been a very big factor, which is always going to be when you've got cerebral palsy. But I didn't feel comfortable in taking the place, even though I got approached from several organisations to at one stage to, train up for the Paralympian rugby team, and their tennis team, and I thought, no, I'm not, because with the greatest respect for wheelchairs, because I'm not anti-wheelchairs. I work with plenty of people where I encourage them to, spend time in a chair, but I always say to them, do you want to be an athlete in a chair or do you want to be a slob? But it's personally one of my goals to never end up in a wheelchair, because, the reality is it's, we all know too much sitting down is not good for you, and, also squashes up your vital organs. So I have the greatest respect and plenty of friends that are in wheelchairs, but I'm not a fan of people being in them that don't need to be.
Okay.
We went in the standing division, me and my mate, to Japan, and the difference is basically 2 bounces.
Okay.
But in reality, mate, if some of the people I played over there, then if they're disabled, then there's a chance you are as well.
Right. Is it that competitive in terms of they're trying to maybe fudge the system, or?
Well, I mean, it's a subject on its own, but I certainly acknowledge that it's not an easy thing to get right. But the reality for me is, right down to all disabled sports, it should be more to, and they reckon they do this, but they don't. How much does your disability affect you for that particular event? Mm-hmm. And as an example, don't always go on what you can see, because I've come up in sport up against people that look more severely affected than I do because they might have lost their legs, a car accident or whatever. But, if you're doing a wheelchair sport, like a lot of people don't know this, but I went to the Nationals for disabled rowing for New Zealand, and I would, if I went to the World Champs, I would have come up against people maybe with no legs that looked more disabled than me, but because it was arms only, they weren't using them.
Right.
And with cerebral palsy, because it's a brain thing, everything's affected.
Okay.
Whereas I could have been up against somebody who might have been wheelchair bound, but the part of their body that they were using may well have been the able-bodied part of their thing. So it is a hard thing to get right, but as I said to one bloke at the tennis that I played, because they got very good English over there, what's your disability is like, or your broken eyelash or something like that, lots of people would say good on them for having to go because he's got one, foot longer than the other and he's got a block on his shoe. So, as far as I'm concerned, go and play against able-bodied if it's that minuscule.
Right. So would you say you're one of the more disabled people in that category?
The 3 years that I went and played doubles and singles, I believe that I was the most disabled out of the people I come across. And actually, apart from my doubles partner, everyone that of the people that I played over the 3 years, the guy that I had the most respect for, I absolutely blew off the court in the first round, and he wasn't the fittest character, but he was the only other person that I seen that threw themselves around the tennis court like I did.
Awesome.
And so, when I did win quite a few prizes over there, I give him first pick. I'm very competitive. And, as far as I'm concerned, the time for being a good sport is when you can't do something about the result.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also very fair, and, I show a lot of respect to people that, are really getting over something. But, if they think that disabled sport's about fun, not the first year, but second year we went, because we made a name for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I went from paying 90% of my hotel the year before to they paid 90%.
Oh, wow.
And 10% respectively. And, this would be 30 years ago. I got given an envelope with, I think it might have been like nearly $1,000 American.
Jeez.
And they said, "Thank you for coming to the tournament. We're happy to have the best players there." And I thought, wow. There's a few $100 Shelley doesn't know about. So, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So were there any players, because you're ultra competitive, but was there anyone else that might have even, did you ever come to blows with anyone? Were other people ultra competitive as well? There has to be, everyone's got their own personality. So.
Well, yeah, there was one particular person that come up to me, before the semi-finals of the doubles, and come up and said, you think you're pretty good. And it was actually the guy who had one leg longer than the other.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and sort of, said, "Oh, you think you're pretty good, blah, blah, I'm going to blow you off the court tomorrow," and all the rest.
Really?
I said, "Oh, should we have a conversation around the back of the building around that?" And of course, he didn't know what that means in Kiwi language. And but the lady running disabled tennis found out about it, and I got told that any more of that carry on, and I won't be coming on any more trips. But when we brought home the bacon, she changed her attitude pretty quick. So, look, I mean, mate, people that just think disabled sports about participation, they're absolutely kidding themselves.
Yeah. That's where I was going with that. I just want to know that level of competitiveness among the athletes. They want to win. They're there to play.
Yeah, they are. And within that group, you always get people that are a bit more, keen on the participation, and some people are just happy to say that they've represented New Zealand or whatever, But I will tell you one thing around the tennis side of things, because that Japan Open is the equivalent of the world champs for the standing division. Yeah. And I was more excited when I beat my mate in the singles in the New Zealand Open than what I was winning the world champs.
Wow.
Because there's nothing like just winning New Zealand's thing, and closely followed behind by beating someone from Australia is right up there. Of course. And even beating someone from Auckland's really good too. So
they go hand in hand, don't they?
They certainly do, Dave.
So, was there ever any pressure for you being an Endacott? You're in a family of high achievers, one might say. Did you ever feel any pressure to achieve and find success?
None whatsoever, which probably surprised a few people, and even the fact, Shane was exceptionally talented at sport, and without speaking for him, because I'd like him to come on this podcast at some stage.
Return my messages, Shane.
Yeah, I'll sort him out. But the reality is, I personally think he was a lot better league player than what people give him credit for.
Yep.
And just as far as the pressure side of things, I had an expectation that I played sport, but no pressure. And even Dad, when Shane originally went along to soccer, and then and trust me, mate, Shane could pick up a softball bat and be playing softball great by the end of the week.
So just one of those guys, good at everything he touches.
One of those people that, just like, they just take it for granted and everyone else hates. And really, be honest, Dad was very much the same. Yeah. So I've been very, very lucky with the gene pool as well.
Yeah, it feels like you're exactly the same.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people think you know, they don't get past the disability, and they think, oh yeah, if you've got a disability, then natural talent's not going to come through.
Yeah.
It still comes through, but yeah, it's sort of
Just has its challenges.
it's halted a wee bit by certain things, but no hard time, no expectations. You know, I just got brought up, always try your best, and you know, and work hard.
Yeah.
But you know, people don't like words like this, but you know, just when it comes to winning, you know, I had the killer instinct, you know. You know, so I got on well with several people that have been on your show already, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky in my life that I've met a lot of, you know, talented people, but I've also had a lot of good people around me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they say winning's a habit and losing's a habit. There's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, I'd agree. So, how would you measure your success against other disabled athletes?
Probably the main thing, and it's not easy for me to say this because, you know, I don't know, some people that meet me in life might think I'm cocky or whatever. You know, I think one of the great things in our family, Dave, is, you know, there's some pretty successful people in there, but no one's arrogant. No one's arrogant. And I do public speaking now, and, you know, with some pretty high profile New Zealanders and stuff, and, you know, some people say to be successful you need to be arrogant. No, arrogance is linked with ego. You need to be confident.
Confidence is
and you know, so I've never gone down that track, but I would say that what I privately measure myself against, especially when I've done stuff against the disabled, because a lot of the time I've done my sport against able-bodied people.
Right.
But when I'm up against the disabled, doesn't matter what sport it is, doesn't matter if it's rowing, rugby league, tennis, or whatever, my goal in my head is I don't want to be beaten by somebody who's more disabled than me.
Okay.
That's how I measure myself. So, for example, the guy that I played, without sounding cocky, but you asked the question, the guy that I played in the tennis that I deem was the most physically like me, you know, I beat him 9-0. I think he got 4 points. That was an opportunity to say, actually, you're actually not a bad tennis player.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a fair smashing, to be fair. But hey, you know, you must put in some hours of training. Like, was there any little things you did with your training? Like, what was your strength in tennis? Like, what did you have to use?
With the tennis, for example, and this is where I try and think at a different level to some people. So we all know tennis is, you know, the serve is a big part of the game, right? You know, I mean, a 5-year-old knows that. But the reality is, I put a lot of effort into my serving because I've got the ball in my hand. Doesn't matter if they've got shit balance and wonky legs. I already know where the ball is, so I put a lot of effort into that. But then also, I acquired a road cone when I was training.
You acquired one.
Well, you know, you do things like that when you're brought up out at Hornbeam High. You don't pay for anything like that. And I used to put a road cone in the service square, and I would try and hit it on the full from my serve.
Oh, wow.
And then also, you know, I had tennis coaches that you know, had played for New Zealand and coached at New Zealand level. You know, Dad always says, get the right people behind, you know, around you. So I really, you know, I really did that. When you got obstacles in front of you, you've got to do the other things in your control, right?
Okay.
And, you know, when I was playing tennis, I just run for absolutely everything. You know, I took out Coke machines, advertising signs, fences, you know, nearly got medically ruled out of one tournament just because I had no skin on forearms.
Wow.
Thing. And,
ultra competitive.
Yeah. But,
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really did enjoy the tennis. But from that training point of view, yeah, that's... And, you know, you got to work on what's in your favour. And if I get to the ball, I'm physically very strong. So, you know, when I hit it, I want them to know how strong I am. So, I even hit it at people at times where I could have just placed it into the corner, but I wanted them to know how strong I was. So no better than, serving a rocket down at them or hitting the ball straight at your head, So I took all that stuff into account and not by accident.
I love that so much. Right, I've got a question from the Facebook group for you, from Rachel McCardle. What gives you the motivation, strength and determination to succeed when the majority of the population hardly have the motivation to achieve one of their goals?
I work on a theory, Rachel, of paying the good people back, the people that showed faith in your family. But I also work on another theory of, you can't be this different and not find the arseholes a bit quicker than most other people. So very much I'm into sticking it up the arseholes as well.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people make the mistake in life of doing things for themselves. But if you use good people or negative people as motivation, then yourself actually takes care of itself when you get the rewards.
Yeah.
But if I had, and without sounding critical, if I had the same, attitude as maybe 30% of our current, population, I probably wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't have a house. I wouldn't have a wife. Might even have kids. Might have the confidence. So, you've. Last time I checked, I think you asked a question earlier on about, what motivates you. A big motivation too is, last time I checked, this ain't a dress rehearsal for next time, and I'm only here once, and I'm going to make the most of it. And privately, I always think, I've got no problem with the disability. I'm not embarrassed by it, but, if I do my life right, I'll be remembered for something bigger than the way I walk.
Damn right. I love that. Okay, so let's move on to your rugby league journey, man. When did you realise you first loved rugby league?
Oh, probably as soon as I could hear.
Yeah?
And see. Yeah, and once again, it wasn't pushed down my throat, but, it was my job to clean Dad's football boots and even right down to loving the smell of liniment.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between envy and jealousy. So my brother Shane, always looked like he was going to be a pretty good footballer right through the grades, but then you get people drop off, around 12, 13, and a lot of the bigger kids that got good because they were, big or whatever, drop off. But I love the smell of liniment. I used to go to the football with Dad and watch him play, and I just loved everything about it. But, even though it mightn't have fitted my balance or anything like that, I loved confrontation. I loved team stuff. It just, and interestingly enough, but before I, played for the New Zealand PDRL, I was often interviewed and asked, because you've done the running and all the other stuff and all this stuff all, over the world. And I used to say to people, even when I was just playing President's Grade, if I had to pick one sport and chuck everything else away, I would have picked the league.
Yeah. Yes.
Some parts of it are a wee bit sad in a way, but just I think Shane was up at the 17-year-old tournament, and I just started work. I got my first pay the week before, and I spent my whole pay flying up to I think it was at Wellesley College in Auckland to see them play Wellington in the final.
Wonderful.
And Shane and a lot of his mates from Dad's local league team, I think about 7 or 9 of them made the Kiwi side.
Yeah.
And so in some ways I would have loved to league-wise done what Shane done, but I was never jealous. I was his biggest fan.
I love that. Yeah.
You're talking about fans of league players. I mean, you had a great one on the couch initially in the senior for Molo. Met some great people in league. Aaron Whitaker and the Whitakers and people I've played with and stuff. But I'd have to say, of the people I didn't know initially, the best sports person that I've come across in my life is Ruben Wiki.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Call me Ruben. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
no, mate, he's a legend. You know, I was at that game in 2008 when he played for the Warriors. It was a semi-final at Mount Smart, and he did that massive run, yelling out Sparta.
Oh, yeah.
And he knocked down the Sol.
Yeah,
I see
Soliola.
I was at that game right in front of it, and I was like, wow, he's like in his last few games of his career, and he's still charging the ball that hard. It's crazy.
Well, mate, I've had Soliola sit behind me at a league game when we were away with Masters in Australia, and mate, he's not a small human himself.
I mean, he was a forward at the end of his career. He was massive.
But you know, Ruben, you know, played a lot under Dan then as well, you know, with the junior Kiwis. And I think the other centre might have been Tana Umaga, actually.
Crazy.
At the time. So you're not a bad couple of centres.
Not bad.
But, I get on really well with Ruben. And, you know, I call him my favourite big black bus.
Yeah.
And, him and a senior, to be honest. And he calls me the champ's in the house. But,
awesome.
Yeah, but, don't play cards or drinking games with him because you won't do well. I learned that one pretty quickly.
That was brilliant. Okay, so you said you love the contact of rugby league. Like, what are the things that you really love about the game? Like, is it that team camaraderie? Is it just smashing people? Like, what is it?
No, look, the team stuff comes first. You know. And look, mate, you know, I know that I'm not built like a brick shit house or anything like that. So I'm not going into you know, try and be a tough man or anything, but on the same token, I never back off. You know, it doesn't matter who's running at me, how big they are, whatever. You know, I'm not getting out of the way.
Okay.
You know, it's just not an option. I don't care if I end up in row F.
Right.
I'm not getting away, but
I love it.
In my own wee way, I think you know, if I'd had better balance, the balance is really what's hindered, you know, my league playing the most.
Yeah.
I think if I had better balance, then I would have made the most of my strength. But, you know, I always concentrate on what was in my control. And, you know, the family give me a bit of shit about it, and Aaron Witt does about, you know, the short ball and all the rest. But, you know, my passing and catching skills and that would be as good, and you know, as the average Joe Bloggs, because I've got good concentration.
Right. Okay.
You know.
So, obviously, you had a brother who was very successful in rugby league. Did you find that hard, or what went through your mind growing up? You know, thinking, I want to do this. You know, my brother's succeeding. Like, how does that make you feel growing up?
Well, I had a long time where I you know, I had to wait to be able to play league. You know, and I'm not even sure Dad was keen on me playing league. You know. Because really, to be honest, it hadn't been done before by someone like me at the time, you know. And then, you know, I knew it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. But, you know, and I had a lot of people come up to me and go, oh, mate, you've bitten off more than you can chew this time, you'll get hurt and blah, blah, blah. Well, getting hurt is just not an option. And even when I played prezzies, there'd be the odd person that would take it a bit easier on you, and then you'd have the odd jerk that wanted to, you know, chip kick over your head and bloody get past you. Because I started off out in the wing, which was a suicide mission, and then I actually said to Dad and Steve Scarlett, a bloke that helped me get into league at one stage, I said, I actually think I'm better off in the forwards, because I always knew how to read the game, but you know, you weren't stranded, and you know, certainly not a speed merchant, so I ended up going into hooker in the front row, and you know, it was a lot easier for me to fend there. But you know, just growing up, you know, I honestly, if I walk around the house and I'm not trying to be quiet, it's like the baby elephants coming to town, you know. But I got up a few times, and I went into Shane's room and got into his football gear and got dressed and looked at myself and think, is this before I could play league?
Oh, wow.
And that was always a thing. And you know, and you know, I went and bought a you know, a Kiwi Jersey and all that thing, and you used to wear that round, and I remember Shane held somebody up over the line in the reserve grade semi-final, you know, and even Dad says today that he actually closed his eyes because he thought the guy was going to score, and Shane held this guy up over the line, and they went through to the final and then got ripped off by a touch judge, but
Yep.
you know, and Aaron Whitaker was in that team.
Yep.
And you know, at that time I thought, geez, I'd love to be able to, you know, sort of save that moment for, you know, I'd like to do something like that for Dad one day, and you know, always thought it was sad that there wasn't options for people with disabilities playing league, and you know, there's always way more opportunities in a wheelchair than what there is on
Really?
foot, which I find really sad.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean that's personal stuff, but obviously I'm happy to divulge it. But yeah, never, you know, enjoyed watching my kids play league. And it was funny because, you know, they would come up and some of the things they think as kids, you know, really surprised me a wee bit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I swim like a brick, and I know my kids, you know, used to worry about me drowning. They've told me later on in life. And you know, even when the boys at school would try, you know, they'd say, oh, geez, Dad, I've done that for you, you know. And I'd have to say, one really nice thing that Shane said to me once when he was doing his professional football career with, you know, Aaron Whitaker and a lot of Canterbury guys, and, you know, with the Warriors and going overseas and England, all that sort of thing. He said to me once, he said, it should have been you really, Gary, because he knew I'd enjoy the party side of things and the hype and all that. And, you know, Shane loved the league and that, but he was, you know, he always says it was a great experience, but he always thought personality-wise, I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
And I thought that was highly respectful of him to say that, you know, because I got two other brothers, you know, and, you know, they were good, solid sports people, but they weren't going to be household names. So it's very easy to sit there and think, well, I could have done this, you know, if I was able-bodied and all the rest, because I had people, you know, I've clearly got a wee bit of talent when it comes to sport. I wouldn't have done what I'd done. And in some ways that's nice on one hand, but, you know, I'll never know what I could have done as an able-bodied person. And, I'll always be curious about that my whole life.
I guess you will. It's so nice, like your brother Shane, like having that respect for you and knowing that you probably did have the talent, or do have the talent, but, you know, and that it could have been you, you know.
Yeah, and then again, you know, it might have just been an also ran, but look, honestly, probably get shot and heaps of stuff on Facebook. Well, I'll tell you what, as far as I'm concerned, and I might be a bit biased, you know, league and rugby, you know, I know it's a national sport. It's not mine.
I mean, it's all about league.
I think league players are thoroughbreds and too many rugby players are draft horses.
Right.
Not all of them, obviously, but just the way the game's played. I respect all sports people, don't get me wrong, but, mate, like, you watched that NRL grand final last year. I haven't seen too much sport better to watch than that.
That's pretty amazing, eh?
Yeah, the intensity. Because
unreal.
There is comparisons you can make in some parts between league and rugby.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the athlete's fault. I just think rugby's got too many rules. Yeah. And a field that size is not really made for 30 people.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that's why I love rugby league. It's a little bit more simplistic. But, yeah, like when you get a game like that grand final where it looks like one side's got it and then one side comes back and clinches it on the siren. It's pretty unreal.
Yeah,
in a grand final, like, come on.
Well, Dave, I got a confession. I was a bit nervous because I had a grand on the Panthers and I thought I was gone with 20 minutes to go. So.
Didn't cash out early, thank goodness.
No, I didn't cash out early.
Good man.
No.
Oh, that's funny. So who did you first start playing for? Like, what are the teams that you've played for in your league journey? Oh,
look, honestly, the family give me shit about this, and they reckon I've had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus. But in reality, and I don't want to get into it now, but each time I left a league club, there was a reason for it.
Okay.
But, you know, I'd spent a lot of time, you know, Limwood were really the first club to take me in.
Yep.
And I was with them for a long time, and then the reality was I worked for Canterbury League for a year, and I wasn't really supposed to be lined up with the club, so I stopped playing for a year, and I was doing stuff on a Saturday for them. But, you know, and then when I went to come back, the Limwood team had got what I'd considered a bit too serious, you know, and wasn't quite as welcome. So went to a few other clubs after that. But yeah, it's it was a long time. It was a long time coming. That whole journey, and yeah, but one of my few times in my life I was really sensible, because before the New Zealand Disabled League came along, I just played league because I loved it, not necessarily because I was good at it. It's probably reasonably good at it considering my situation, but when everyone else is able-bodied, you're going to get found out reasonably quickly.
So you're playing against 25 other, able-bodied people, and you're the only one just mixing it up. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, and I made a decision very early on in my league career that if I got cleaned up, if I got pole drived or whatever, I wouldn't bleed about it.
Okay.
But yeah, you still come across some people that say some not nice stuff to you, and some people are lovely.
Yeah.
One guy was reading my pedigree one day from the sideline at Linwood Park, telling me I was useless, and he was yelling out "smash the cripple" and all that sort of shit.
Oh my God.
So I went over the sideline and called him panda tits, I said, and because most people that know me know I'm pretty quick with the tongue, and give him a gobful, and told him he wasn't that good or he wouldn't be standing on the sideline in the first place. And anyway, so we're playing this game at Linwood Park, and then all of a sudden we had to stop the game. The rest stopped the game, and an ambulance showed up.
Yeah.
And we were all looking at each other, and the boys in the team, Jeff Witt, not the horse trainer Jeff Witt, another guy Jeff Witt, and Steve Scarlett, we were getting together again like, who's injured? Is someone injured, or has someone got sick on the sideline and had a heart attack? But no, it was my brother Frank, the guy that was yelling out, calling "smash the cripple, smash the cripple." Frank knocked him out on the sideline, my brother Frank, and the ambulance showed up for this guy on the sideline who wasn't doing too well, and
Shot Frank.
Yeah. No, he doesn't always do the right thing, but he did on that occasion. But so there's always things that you got to lighten up. But most people were highly respectful, and I had more respect for somebody that bloody tackled me. Bloody I used to get up and say, "Hey, mate, like I didn't come to play football. You're going to tackle me like a baby, you know." And but yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's certain people in a league game that you look across the shed, and you think, thank God, I'm pleased they're in my team.
Yeah.
And even playing a Masters game over in England, I'm probably gobby at the best of times, but you've got a senior femolar under your arm. The chances of their front row winning the scrap, even though I'm in it, is pretty slim.
Oh, that's funny. So when you were younger, what would you say, like, dreaming of the future would have been your ultimate achievement in rugby league?
Look, I always wanted to. I always wanted to represent New Zealand in something. Mm-hmm. Obviously, rugby league was my top pick, but at that time there was nothing there. So as I said earlier on, first goal was to win a proper trophy.
Yeah.
And then I always dreamed about playing league for New Zealand. I knew that wasn't going to be in a able-bodied capacity, clearly, but it was quite hard though, and there used to be a program called Logan's Run years ago. You'd be far too young to remember this, but it was a program where you got to 30 and then basically you died, right? And I used to honestly think in my head at the time when I was growing up as a kid, if I got to 30 and then I just, like, the program just disappeared, I reckon I would have just about taken it. That's how obsessed I was with rugby league. I mean, obviously you wouldn't in reality, but that's how I used to think. Because out of everything that I had taken off me, that the biggest thing that used to upset me was that my ability to play rugby league, I felt, got taken off me.
Yeah.
And then out of the things that I can't do, Not being able to swim pisses me off too. But
Yeah.
that, I'm over it now because I've done some other good stuff. But that not being able to play league at a possible level you could have got to, it was pretty hard to deal with.
I could imagine. So you've actually had some pretty amazing achievements in rugby league, though. All the same, you played like a curtain raiser match for the Warriors. Like, how special was that running out on Mount Smart?
Yeah, that was really cool because I know Dad had spent a lot of time on there, and Shane had, and I knew quite a few people on the other team. And you know how other people will play against someone they know, and they'll take it a bit easier on them, or they might feel a bit not nice hitting them late or something like that.
Yeah.
My whole psyche is, mate, will be a mate, never be a later. But honestly, if I needed to win the scoring try or set a try up, whatever, I'd run over the top of my grandmother,
Yeah.
and that's the way I think. And like I said earlier on, I never, getting hurt or whatever, and any of the stuff I've done's never been an option.
Yeah, you knew what you signed up for.
I don't worry about it. But there's an advantage to everything. I've got really tight muscle tone.
Yeah.
Which is good when it comes to taking, impact. It's good when you're arm wrestling somebody for a round of drinks.
Yeah.
It's not good when you're trying to swim.
No, not good for swimming.
Or bend down and do your own shoes up.
Yeah. And you went to a physical disabled rugby league championship for New Zealand.
Yeah, the Commonwealth Championships.
Yeah.
If I look at Kilimanjaro for a second, that's the one thing I've done in my life that I look back and I think, how the hell did you do that?
Yeah, I can't wait to chat about that.
But when I'd say probably the most excited I've been in my life is when I won the New Zealand Tennis Open against my mate.
Yep.
But actually, the thing that I always wanted to do was play rugby league for New Zealand against, the disabled. And actually, I also always wanted to play a game under lights.
Yeah.
And we played a game in the round robin because it was Australia B, then Australia, then us, and we played Australia under lights in the first game. And
how good.
We lost by one try, and it was pissing down with rain.
Yeah.
Which is great for me, Dave, because everyone else slows up in the rain, and I'm already slow. And
Okay.
I actually got in a bit of trouble in that game because we had a guy, Michael Calooney, that was a great tackler, and I come over the top and landed on somebody, and then I was having trouble getting off, and he turned around and gave me a bit of a swing, so give him a couple of jabs in the head, and all these people were watching, and the Aussie trainer come on and pulled me off, and off the player and stuff. But so I had to make sure that I don't get overhyped in that, but that. Just being in that tournament is still the highlight of my sporting career when you couple in everything.
Yeah, like what's it like for you? Like you're in the changing rooms before kickoff, you've got your jersey on, you're sitting there. What's going through your mind? Like you're like, I did it. I'm here. Like let's go smash this. Like
I was never one to just be content to pull on the New Zealand jersey, right?
Yep.
That's not me. I want to do that. And then I want to go out and I want to make an impact.
Yes.
You probably made too much of an impact in that tournament, but as far as getting sent off or sin binned or whatever it was, but just the competitive nature is always there. And once again, you look around the dressing shed and you've got certain people that you want with you, and certain people you come across in life. You want around you. I'll use Aaron Whitaker as an example. Aaron's just infectious. He backs himself.
Yep.
He's professional. He's talented. But he's the type of guy, actually, different personality to Dad, but he's the type of person that, you want to do well for them as well.
Yeah.
And even, in later years when I managed or assistant manager of league teams, I sat in front of, lots of coaches at all different levels and stuff. But, and, you know, Dad wouldn't like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Even when Dad was coaching Hornby, I sat down and I listened to his team talks and blah, blah, blah. And he was just the type of person that you know, like you'd go out and lie in the middle of the road for him, you know? And he wasn't tipping up tables and that, but I tell you what, when he spoke, you listened. And, you know, just certain people, and I found Aaron like that, and his brother Jeff, who's a great fella, he trained me up for Kilimanjaro, which a lot of people don't know, and you know, and Aaron trained me up for one of my marathons, and you know, to be honest, I actually think, you know, Jeff pushed me harder than Aaron did.
Wow. You know, with Aaron, he was the second person I had on the couch here for the podcast, and just meeting him for the first time on the day was like, I just love the bloke. Like and I put a picture of him actually in a different group on Facebook as the former international greats, you know, Rugby League group. I just put a picture of him saying, "Oh, I've got this fella coming on the podcast." There was hundreds of comments saying, "What a great bloke, what a top guy," and just what an inspirational person. It was unreal.
Well, two things with Aaron is, you need to know this. One thing is, when it comes to bringing some photos for the podcast, Aaron ain't short of photos.
He ain't short of photos.
No, mate, I know his wife, Andrea, a lovely woman, not getting on the wrong side of her either. Mate, she put some in the back of the wardrobe. There was that many, you know. Yeah. But Aaron's, the other thing is, I'm surprised he's not, you know, still on this couch talking here, because he'd make me look deaf, dumb and mute when it comes to talking Aaron. He loves a chat.
Oh, he was fantastic. You know, I actually just reached out to him randomly.
Good guy.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, I'm actually over this weekend." You know, sort of thing. Oh, well, call it and do the podcast. I was like, what a champion! It was amazing.
Yeah,
and we've kept in contact ever since. You know,
and I've played a lot of touch with Aaron and Masters and stuff. He's got like the whole Whittaker family that we're very close, and you know, they're good people.
Yeah, well, this is the perfect segue to go onto your marathon running, with Aaron Whittaker being involved. Not one, not two, not three, but 4 New York marathons. How did this whole idea come about? Why New York? You know, talk us through the process of how you got into running 4 New York marathons.
Well, I was on Moray Sports Extra several years earlier with a well-known leaguey, Brent Todd, used to be one of the hosts on it.
Good old Brent Todd.
Yeah, and so they'd done a clip about me playing rugby league, and that was all good. And then, you know, nothing come of that. You know, we had a lot of people come up to you and saying, you know, well done and all the rest, but not that it's about that. But what happened was that clip made the best clip of the year for the final 2-hour show of thing, and so they replayed it. Mm-hmm. And a gentleman in Auckland called Peter Loft seen it and said he run Achilles, which is a worldwide running organisation for people with disabilities, physical disabilities, to do marathons. And he seen it, and the organisation you know, didn't have as many members in that, and then Dad was at the peak of his powers for profile. So Peter initially thought, geez, if we get this guy on board, we might get some quite good media coverage because of his connection with his father, which, you know, at the end of the day, if that helps people with disabilities, I don't care, you know. And I've had a lot of people in my life say, oh, do you get annoyed when you've got all these write-ups and people mention your father or they associate with your father? Mate, associate me with him any time of the week, because I tell you what, mate, he's a great bloke. Great, soul of the earth, you know. What's he nicknamed by the media? Happy Frank. I tell you what, mate, but I tell you what, don't get on the wrong side of him, because I tell you what, he's a hard bugger and he can make the hard decisions. You know, so it's just, it's all really part of that, to be honest. Just that whole connection. Yeah. So Peter Loft, you know, he approached Dad, who went through to me and said, we need somebody to be able to train up to do a marathon on foot, which hadn't been done before, by the way. They had people do it on skateboards and wheelchairs and whatever, but no one had done it on foot. they said you've got like 5 months to train, I think, and the organisation, I think only had one other athlete at that time, and they'd had bigger ones, but they had some internal issues or something within the organisation. So the agreement was that they would get the funding together. All I had to do was concentrate on doing this marathon.
Okay.
Why do New York? That's where it's held, But, mate, I don't particularly enjoy running,
Yeah.
But if somebody offers you a chance to do it in New York and it hasn't been done before, well, all of a sudden you like it.
Yeah.
And
challenge.
The second time was the worst conditions, but my best time.
Yeah.
The third time I'd done it, because I didn't want people to think it was a fluke.
Yeah.
The third time I'd done it was when Aaron was my volunteer.
Yeah.
And honestly, mate, he had a bag of gear, and if I'd said pull out a 62-inch plasma TV, he would have had one in there. And Aaron was quite motivational, and and I'd actually pulled my groin muscle 3 weeks before he left.
You are kidding.
No, true story.
Oh my God.
I didn't tell anyone, because I didn't want to ruin Aaron's trip. We went over, and I was sort of struggling a bit with probably 15 Ks to go, but I am really good at blocking things out.
Yep.
And Aaron's going, well, what's the matter with you? And I said, well, mate, I pulled my groin through it. Well, he went into panic mode, and he kept saying, focus, focus, focus. I'm getting pissed off because you're pretty tired.
Yeah, I get it.
And I said to Aaron, I said, if you tell me to effing focus one more time, I said, I'm going to whack you, mate, or no, mate. So we come to an agreement, because in the New York Marathon, if somebody touches you, you're pulled out, right?
Right.
And so we stood in the middle of the road. Can't remember where we were, but it was a pretty dodgy part, and it's starting to get darker. And I said, Aaron, just because I think he was thinking about pulling me out, to be honest.
Really?
And I said, mate, I'm going nowhere. I said, just stop telling me to focus and just leave me and come with me. And I said, if I don't finish this marathon, you're a witness that I'll donate $1,000 to child cancer.
Okay.
Right? And then we think, and mate, I was an absolute mess when I finished. And then when I'd done the last one with Shane, it was a different deal again, because Shane's he's like a mathematician. Even in league, you'd go 4 players there, 6 there,
Yep.
always doing the numbers. And being volunteered by him was completely different, because Shane would say, no, you should be cutting to that corner of that road and things. And he cut so much time off that, that experience and distance. It was unbelievable. And so it was great to do it with a great mate, and Aaron, and it was great to do it, with your brother.
It's pretty special, mate.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for all my brothers. I'd probably think Shane's the most like me. Well, I'm probably a bit like the other three, a bit of everything. But Shane and Aaron were both professional, but in a different way. Shane wouldn't be the type that you'd necessarily want to do it for him. Aaron was more, I want to get the job done for him.
Right.
But Shane was super professional, calculated, and when I seen him in that situation, it confirmed to me firsthand, why he's successful, and even probably why he's successful in business now. He thinks of things no one else would think of.
Right. So you mentioned Jeff Whitaker, and he was part of your training. So let's talk about your training. How do you train to cope with, because you're on your feet for so long, roughly 7 hours or so, I think?
7 hours and 5 minutes was my quickest time. But,
how do you train for blisters and because you don't, being with cerebral palsy, the training, you wouldn't have a standard training for the average person.
I'm running on that much of my foot.
Exactly.
Let's not beat around the bush. I'm up on the toes. So I think there's about 5 or 6 different things, as your Tracy will know, and you'll know yourself, that you can do to not get blisters. I do the whole 6. Wow. And I still get ones that push my toes apart.
Oh, man.
No skin on the bottom of any of my toes. They're all bleeding. You change your shoes once. Probably should be twice, but if I changed it again, I'd seize up, wouldn't be able to get up.
You wouldn't start again.
Yeah, really hard work. But the amount of training I do would probably be under 10% what the average Joe Blogs would do.
Far out. That makes it even more incredible.
Just because of the tightness of my muscles and things like that. People think it's a gait of you're walking and you're running. And what I did was I walk, run, because I'm actually trying to trick my brain from seizing up. But at no stage, even in my training, I'd pick out a spot in the marathon. I'd pick out a spot where there's a lamppost or whatever. Even in my training, we used to train around Hagley Park, and I used to run through the shingle part of Hagley Park. Because it made me pick my feet up. And there was one day where there was a track where people had cut the corner in North Hagley Park, and it would have cut off, 10 seconds or whatever, and we'd been training with Aaron for the whole year. And just before he went away, and Aaron said, "I'll let you take the shortcut tonight," and I went, "No, we're not." That's how I think. I've never done that. Just cut the corner. I never did once. Even in my training with the physically disabled league and things like that, I never cut the corner. I never put the hand down short. Never do anything. Always do it.
Okay.
Right, never ever take a shortcut. But I'm not being cocky, but the tightness of my muscles is why I only do under 10% of the training.
I'm blown away by
which
that.
is why the mental side of things I feel I'm qualified to talk about.
I 100% agree. I run marathons. I think I've done about 17 of them now, and not a single one of them comes easy, and that's with as much training as I want. I have just so much respect for you, man. It's crazy, honestly.
I know brains helps, mate, to be honest. That's helped me a wee bit.
So I noticed you did 96, 97, 98. You had a gap year in 99, and you went back for the year 2000. What made you go back for that fourth one?
I never knew how many times I'd go back. I always knew I'd go back once to improve your time. And I remember the guy that was running Achilles that made it all possible, Peter Loft, said to me, "Oh, when you go back each time, you'll smash your time." And I'm going, "No, I won't." And he goes, "Yes, you will. You just get better and better." But I'm that good at throwing myself at the wall that, if you're making too big an improvement, you didn't put 100% effort in the first place.
Right.
That's my opinion. And I had Michael Jordan's book waved under my nose the night before the marathon and said, he's reading me quotes out of it. You need to read this. Mate, what the hell have me and Michael Jordan got in common? You really do have to back yourself in a situation like that. But I take the biggest factor out of calculation, which is, do I think I'm going to finish? It's never, if I'm playing league, it's never about getting injured. If I'm playing tennis, it's never about losing to someone, more disabled than me. When it comes to the running or Kilimanjaro, imagine how much easier anything would be if you never give in.
Exactly. So that's a perfect time to move on to that subject. Kilimanjaro. How on earth did you come up with the idea? Or did it come to you? Was it presented to you as an idea in this situation?
It was presented to me as an idea, and Achilles actually approached me, who do the runs in America, and then they thought, maybe we need to look at something else. And I think, in all honesty, they needed a bit of a profile boost, and things were getting harder to get funding wise and stuff like that. And they had a lot of athletes go away, and I mean, mate, like some of the people that I've been away with on those 4 marathons from New Zealand, mate, just take your hat off to them. There's some great people. There's one guy from Australia that used to come over their team, and I'd quite happily throw him down the stairs and not go down and see if he's all right. They're not all good, but so Achilles approached me, and they came up with the idea, and they said, "Do you think you could climb Mount Kilimanjaro?" And I'm like, what the hell? and then so it was really interesting, Dave, because Dad's, Dad's a wee bit play safe, and he knows I've done some things. So when it comes to looking at Kilimanjaro, he said, look, son, you're proving a point. You don't have to prove a point to anyone anymore. You've done all these great things. We're already proud of you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Dad, it's not about proving a point. It's about taking an opportunity, and life's all about opportunities.
100%.
And so Achilles actually found out that I think it might have been a disability group in South Africa. A whole lot of visually impaired and blind people were going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I think it was in the October or of 2001, and they were going to go over as a group. So Peter Loft and Achilles New Zealand found out about it and said, look, we got this guy with cerebral palsy, can he come with your disabled group? Might be helpful and blah, blah, blah. What happened was they said, no, we don't want anyone else with us, blah, blah, blah. We're doing this own, we don't want any bloody Kiwis with us.
Really?
And so they come back to me because, it wasn't easy to pick up the funding. I had to prove that it was a benefit to society and all the rest. But I said to Peter, look, let's, I've got respect for what they've done, but I said, they're going to be arrogant like that, then let's piss them off. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, why don't we fly over in September and do it first?
I love your mentality. I love it. I love
it. And that's what I did. And we didn't have enough money to me go over as a volunteer. And I met a real nice American guy on the bus. Because when you go to Kilimanjaro, there's hundreds of people on the mountain at any one time, and they all go up different ways. And this guy was supposed to do a different we call it route, the Americans call it route. And I got talking to him on the bus, and he said, I'm going to change it to do it with you because I think it'd be a whole different experience.
For sure.
And he was a good guy, and he called me candy ass, get your candy ass up the mountain. And so it all started from there.
Wow. So what sort of elevation plot are we talking here, like for Kilimanjaro?
I don't know. Look, mate, I think it's about something like about 6,000 metres.
That is crazy.
But what people don't realise is the altitude up Kilimanjaro is as bad as Everest because of where it is in relation to the equator. Wow.
So you fly over there. What sort of preparation did you have? What sort of gear did you need? How long did it take? All that stuff.
I had really good gear. I had really comfortable boots, but I didn't know if I was going to go through them. And because I knew I'd have to come down off the mountain, the thing that I done different was I hired out an extra guide, right? Okay. And then I went what they call the Coca-Cola route, so I didn't have to pitch tents, you're in cabins, right?
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, but it sounds easier, but it wasn't really. But one of the guides said to carry a fireman's harness up, because the idea was when I got to the top, put the harness on so I didn't, like one of those put little kids on so they don't take off. Okay. That was the idea there. Training wise, that was a year that I was working for Cantabrian League before I started the ministry. I'd done lots of getting up, getting down off the ground, and believe it or not, I'd done bloody just tackle bags and pushing off that and getting up because I knew that I'd fall over a few times and have to push up, and because there's also a mad day, but what I was wanting to do, believe it or not, because I used walking poles a fair bit of the time, I was actually using my upper body a lot more than the average Joe Bloggs would, because I'm trying to rest my legs. So I'd done a lot of stuff, and I'd run up and down the stairs, and I'd run at the little hill at the showgrounds that used to be on, number 2. And Jeff, God, he was dedicated. We'd do this because you do a lot of work for Canterbury League and the weekends and things, so you'd have a wee bit of downtime during the week, and we had a bit of time to train. And there was one day that Jeff couldn't be there, that I had to, that he would normally be there, that I was training for this Kilimanjaro. And just to give you an idea of how I do things and how I think, I run through the fence. Like I was running that hard. I actually couldn't stop, and actually went through the fence and cleaned over the fence. Because Jeff used to have me doing, I think the Aussie League players do it, where you run up and down, and then each time you do it in sections of 10. Each time you get a wee bit less time, and you take off. And I was doing these grids and these things, and I was just running that fast. I went through the fence.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, like, if you meet Jeff, you think he's like the boy next door, But I tell you what, Jesus, mate, he's a hard bastard. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I probably one of the saddest things in my life. But Jeff was real. He's tied up with the horses and really dedicated to that, and a really hard worker, and so's his wife. But, I know he was that close to saying, hey, I'm going to come with you.
Yeah.
Up Kilimanjaro. And I think even today he probably thinks he still should have. And I would enjoy it, because one of the real sad things was I knew that was the biggest thing that I pulled off in my life. And yet I had no one there to like just go, yeah, this is my wife, or this is my mate, or this is my brother. I had the American guy, but closest I've ever been to death.
Wow. So let's talk about that. So was that, obviously, how long did it take, and sort of what's the conditions like the further you go up, and talking about getting close to death, like, what state did you get yourself in?
Oh no, I got myself into a huge state.
I can imagine.
So it's a 5-day proposition. So the first day, you're starting off in the jungle, and the hardest things was there. Like, I reckon about every 60 metres in the jungle, they had natural waterways about that wide.
Okay.
And I had to step over them, and geez, it was hard on my core.
Get annoying after a while.
Yep, well, it's just really hard. But honestly, I don't like spiders, and the biggest thing I was worried about negotiating the jungle was whether I'd seen a big hairy spider or not. But, every day I was 3 hours behind everyone else.
Oh, wow.
But what people don't realise is you're not getting the same rest time as the able-bodied people.
Yeah, because you have to have extra. And you're working your upper body as well.
Yeah, well, I am. I got into a pretty good rhythm and stuff. But, I suppose to go into a bit more detail, I probably need to talk about the last 24-hour period.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because the first 3 days, basically, I'm 3 hours longer than everyone else.
But you're actually working your least strong part of your body on your legs.
All the time.
All the time. That goes for your marathons, your tennis playing, all of that. And everyone else is using what's strong for them.
Yeah.
You're going the opposite.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's probably, the one thing no one can take off me.
That is incredible, honestly.
I've got full respect for, other people with disabilities and blah, blah, blah. But, apart from the ones that have got cerebral palsy or the stuff that affects your brains, it's not like you're putting a prosthesis on, which I'm sure is not easy, but, there's a lot of disabilities where you hop into a wheelchair and you're alleviating some of your disability.
Yeah.
Not you. I've never been able to alleviate it because you can't.
No.
Even in the rowing, one night that would tighten up the next. Because my messages from my brain are that gross that I can pull a muscle.
That's crazy.
From just, somebody pulled me once at a barbecue.
Yeah.
And took me over a year to come right. Just pulled me like that, and I pulled back because I was slipping in the shingle, and just a message from my brain pulled my abductor muscle.
That's incredible. So that's what you're working with. So for people listening, this is what this man's working with, and now he's 3 days. Was it 3 days in? Yeah. And now you're getting towards the top.
And then everyone else took your group changes because you're having a acclimatisation day.
Okay.
And I don't want to get into it because it's not my proudest moment, but I had a young fella from Britain that was about 17 with his family, and snobby little prick he was. And he was reading me my pedigree and imitating my walking in the jungle. And so, I had a conversation with him around that very early on in the piece, and his parents, and who didn't get it. And they, so we go up and go back, and then the people, your group changes and splits in half, because half took an acclimatisation day, which I did, and half didn't. Well, that particular family, they were heading towards the top and coming back as we were doing our last 24-hour gig. And, and that whole family didn't make it, and I remembered that guy had given me a hard time about my walking. And I went up to him and I said, "You'll never remember me, and you'll never meet me again probably in your life." I was trying to teach him a lesson, to be honest. But I said, "Mate, you've taken the piss out of my walking." I said, "Your parents don't get it." But I said, "I'll tell you what, I am now going to go and do what you couldn't do."
Good for you.
And he was like, "Holy moly, this guy's so good." But, once again, I use that young fella as motivation, because for the first 3 days, at least you get a rest. And that last 24-hour period you start, and instead of stopping off at a hut and staying the night, you get to the hut, you stay there for about 6 hours, then you do the assault on top of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Where it was hard for me was it took me 3 hours longer than everyone else to get to the top hut. So everyone else has got a 6 or 7 hour break.
Yeah.
I had a 3 hour break.
Oh, man.
Well, 3.5 hour break, to be honest. And then the head guide said, "Oh, Gary's slower than everyone else." So everyone else took off at midnight. They said he can leave an hour earlier because he's slower. And I had to leave at 11 o'clock. So in a 24-hour period, believe it or not, I had 2.5 hour break.
That's crazy.
But that's 2.5 hours of me going at my maximum speed, really.
Yeah.
And, so I left this top hut, and you go from trek walking, as you'll see in some of the photos, to just straight up shingle screes.
How do you get up that?
Well, you seem to go 3 foot forward and 2 backwards.
Wow.
So I'm about 7 hours into the climb, and each time I stopped, I had a drink and a thing. Then, mate, your bloody water just about went solid. Yeah. It's only so much food and stuff you can take in at any one time. And because my body's working overtime, I'm actually going through more fuel than the average Joe Bloggs.
Yeah.
So it was getting near the sun coming up, and my nose was starting to bleed, which was altitude issues, right?
Wow.
So what I did was I wiped my nose on the inside of my jacket.
Yeah.
And mate, if I showed you the jacket when I got back, it's covered in blood, right? Because altitude's the thing that stops a lot of people from completing it. But I decided that, because one of the advantages I had, I was used to doing things slower. Most of the people that didn't finish were the young, fit ones.
Really?
But I got to this particular stage where I got up and I went to get up, and I just couldn't get up. I seized up, right?
Yep.
And I had 2 guides, as I said, and an extra guide. And the guy said to me, "If you carry on from here, you're signing your death warrant."
Wow. Right? I mean, that's serious stuff.
Yeah, serious. And I thought,
that's crazy.
But what I said to him, Dave, was, "Are you allowed to leave me up here?" And he goes, "No." And I said, "Good. That means I'm running the show and we're carrying on." So I got up and I stumbled even more than I normally do for probably another 3/4 of an hour. Then I sat down, take a rest, and then I just completely seized up.
Wow.
And one of my guides went to grab me and said, "Mate, you're out of here." And he was carrying quite a bit of my gear. And I was like, "No, you can get out of my face. Yeah. I'm going to carry on from here." And the guy's going, "You carry on from here, you're going to die." And this will sound mad to you, but I said, "I'd rather die than not finish."
That's amazing.
And well, it's pretty stupid, really, but
I can appreciate it. I kind of like the crazy stuff.
You get into a totally different zone. You hear people be critical in the media about how could you leave someone up on the mountain, mate. I walked over the top of this guy that had just collapsed up there. I walked straight over the top of him.
Wow.
I was really quite happy with myself, because normally I'd trip over that, but I didn't. But so I decided to crawl to the top of Kilimanjaro, and I crawled for 3 hours. Then we got up the top, and I'd done my homework, and I said, "Righty, I've got to the top, I'll get the certificate, get me the hell out of there." And they said, "We can't get a stretcher till you're here."
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh, shit, okay then." So they took all my clothes out of my pack, and I put them on like about 3 layers, and just grabbed my feet and they pulled me down through the shingle.
Really?
About an hour and a half. And then I got put on a stretcher and I was down to just about only just not that, layers of clothes had practically disintegrated, and then I got put on the stretcher and stretched it off. But I'd done my homework. I had to get to the top.
Yep.
It says I got to the summit of Kilimanjaro. I'll start listening to you now about getting down. And, and the rest is history. But as I said earlier on, so one time in my life I thought, geez, how to do that? Because if I do a marathon, I'm telling you now, I expect to finish it.
Yep.
Because I don't stop.
Yeah. But now you had more like the earthly elements sort of, to contend with as opposed to running on a flat surface. It's just different.
It was like doing a marathon 5 days in a row, because my problem is the flexibility and lack of flexibility. So normally the fitter you are, the more flexible you need to be. And I'm really not anywhere near aerobically fit as people think I am. Because, but it's the mental toughness.
That's crazy. So coming down. So you're literally being dragged along in your clothes along the ground, like along shingle.
Yeah, straight over rocks and snow and whatever.
That is insane, but that just shows where you're at in terms of what you're prepared to do to achieve a goal. Like that is next level.
I don't actually know. There's been a lot of talk about mental toughness and stuff. I don't know how I'd handle it if I didn't actually reach my goal. I could probably handle it if I didn't, and I'd have to go back and have another go.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I haven't been in that position again, and I haven't been in that position where that's been the result.
Far out. That is amazing.
It is what it is.
It is. So, would you say that your mental toughness, like, surely that's your greatest strength?
Yeah, without a doubt. I really do think like I'm bulletproof, but I've got a balance there as well. Some people would say, "Oh, you're a bit nuts," or extreme or whatever. And even in my job, when I'm trying to get a young person with disability to do something, a lot of people say you can't expect them to be like you. I don't ever ask somebody to do something that I don't think they're capable of doing. But it is amazing sometimes in society that when you do have the right attitude, you can get criticised for that.
Yeah.
But if I look back at my life and some of the stuff I've done, I wouldn't have thought that it necessarily map out that way, and my quality of life and especially in my work and I've probably done better than even what I thought I would. Mm-hmm. But you always got to keep things in perspective. Yeah. And my dad said to me my whole life, doesn't matter how good you are at something, if you're not a good person, people won't listen to you. And and that's where I think people's egos mess them up. But I've had some great people around me. I've got great friends. No disrespect to any of my brothers, but that'll tell you separately that I've probably got the most mates. But I put a lot of effort into people. Mm-hmm. I mean, just from a disability perspective, David, I don't know if you're going to answer this, but there's always good and bad sides to everything. If there's no doubt about it. If I look at my disability, there's certain things that I can't do, right? And there's actually a lot that I've missed out on. Yeah. Right? Not as much as some people, but there's a lot that I've missed out on. No doubt about that whatsoever. But on the same token, I'll give you an example. The things that I can't do and I'll never be able to do through my disability, I actually handle really well. What really gets me down is when people make out that I get perks out of having something wrong with me.
Yes.
Like, oh, you're lucky you get a disabled car park. Or, well, I'm telling you now, there's more disabled people around at Christmas time, rainy days and things like that, because they all want your bloody car park. And as I've said to a few people, I wish I didn't bloody qualify for a disabled car park, you idiot.
Exactly.
And I should be able to walk, down the street different, and no one should worry about it. But I've had people run out of bars and tackle me and put me into the middle of the street, and
Really?
and luckily I ended up on top of them instead of the other way around. And when we're going through how that happened, it was like, oh, I thought I'd put you out of your misery, or I had one guy at the Yaldi's pub one night tap me on the shoulder and ask me how long I'd had the carrot up my ass, and things like that. So there are some not nice people out there, but you can either let that destroy you or you can let it make you a better person. And if I'm thankful for a couple of the things around the disability, I believe it's put me into a better position to help other people. I cannot categorically prove that, but I think I've influenced more people's lives like this than what I would have if I didn't have a disability. And from my own point of view, it's taught me stuff to not worry about what doesn't matter. It's not in my control.
Yeah.
And I've got two sons. Both good lads, and they should be better people in life because what we've been through as a family.
Yeah. So how did you meet your wife? Speaking of your family, how did all that come about?
Well, it's funny. Like Shelley was a Hornby girl, and I didn't really know her at school. But once again, without sounding cocky, she certainly knew who I was, and most people, knew who I was in Hornby because I had reasonably big personality, and I think that's the other thing that's probably helped give me a quality of life is my personality. But it's funny actually, but she probably won't mind me saying this, but. We've been married for over 25 years now, and she says to me, if somebody said to me at school that I was going to marry you, she'd go, I remember you and I thought you were a coggy shit and blah, blah, and all the rest. But, the first time I seen her was actually at the Avonhead pub when she walked past, and I thought, no, that's not too bad, but probably be out of my league. But, and I just banged her at a party and stuff, and... she fell for a few of my lines and still falling for them. But, look, nice. There's no doubt about it, having a disability and that, it affects a lot of people. Yeah. And it even does, put an element of pressure and that on you. But, as my dad keeps saying, pressure makes diamonds. And, if you look at the divorce rates just for people with disabilities in relationships and even with disability in the house, the divorce rates are huge, Oh, right. I mean, if you put your brain in gear for a second, I can understand why. It's, I was certainly punching above my weight. There's no issues there, and certainly one of the smarter choices I made in life.
Oh, that's awesome, man. No, I've met both of you, before we met for the podcast at the Turf Bar last year.
Doing the raffles for the Masters.
Yeah, man, that's the one. Yeah, I actually won the Beats Bingo that night. I was quite happy about that.
Well, Dave, that was because you were cheating on your phone, let's be honest, eh?
Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah. No, I thought you were a bit of a larrikin. That was my first encounter with you. I was a crack up. I loved it. I met your wife that night. Absolutely awesome lady. So you're both awesome people. And you've been recognised over your life for being the incredible person you are on numerous occasions, winning awards and things like that, like the Attitude Award, and they made a small documentary about you and your family and your life and everything. Like, what's the one award you think that stands out in your life, like that you recognise?
It's probably not even about an award, to be honest. Because, you know, both my parents impressed to me. It's not about the awards. I'd have to say, winning that Corbin, Pathway Award, that's a worldwide award for someone with a neurological disability. I was pretty proud about that, because that encompasses all parts of your life: what you've done in sport, what you've done in your job, what you've done volunteer, lots of different things. And you sort of get put in for something like that, and you think you're never gonna hear back. And that was good. But I think probably the thing that I'm proudest of is I've taken my disability into account, but I've never let it dictate my quality of life any more than it needed to. So, in answer to your question, I'm probably the most proud of how I've handled not such a great conversation. Not conversation. Not necessarily a great situation. Because it doesn't go away in a hurry, and even getting older, it's not getting any easier. But I've had lots of quotes chucked at me in my life, you know, and I've never really been into other people's quotes. I've always really pretty much not even told many people this, but my main quote that I go by is, "You can't beat tough."
Yeah.
And I'm tough, and I'll get what I want sooner or later somehow. But it's all about, A, sticking up the arseholes, but more importantly, B, playing the good people back in your life. And if I look at the family that I come from, it's about paying them back. And I'm absolutely, people won't believe this, because I'm not going to bullshit you, Dave. Mate, I'd love to get rid of the disability, But you always keep things in perspective. And if somebody came up to me, if it was possible, the magic wand, and said, "We'll get rid of the cerebral palsy, but we'll put you in another family, you won't be an Endacott anymore," I wouldn't take that.
Wow.
So
that's powerful, man.
Well, that's how you sometimes beat the odds. Don't let it consume you. But I'm
amazing.
I'm not going to be one of those people that one day I get tapped on the shoulder and they say, "Well, you've got this illness and you've got 6 months left to live." I don't want to have to rush out the door and do a whole lot of things.
You've done them all.
Well, I haven't done everything.
Maybe not all of them, but
I probably I don't know what's going to happen with the Disabled League. That's a wee bit of a podcast all on its own, because there's some great stuff come out of that, and there's some stuff that I've personally struggled with. But I'm not closing the door on that, and there's some good people involved. But I'm never gonna have my integrity compromised, and I felt that was questioned at one stage, which was precisely why I didn't go to the Rugby League World Cup.
Oh wow!
But those same people still do some real good stuff, and I'm happy to working with them. I'm not going to pack a sad or chuck my toys out of the cot, but I'm not going to I'm not ever going to have my integrity compromised.
100%, man. Okay, so what do you want to be remembered for?
Just actually being a good person.
Awesome. It's a great answer.
Well, but I tell you what, as I said earlier on, I'm not embarrassed about my disability or anything like that. And it's part of me would love to get rid of it. I certainly don't want to be defined by it. But I think it would be sad to be remembered for for quite a big part of your life, which is your disability. I would like to acknowledge one thing though, because I work with a lot of people with disabilities and things like that, and I went through a stage where I thought, geez, am I going to have kids or not? Will they get a hard time about the way Dad walks and things like that? Because one thing I haven't said is actually the closer you are to normal or able-bodied, I think sometimes the less understanding you get from society and the harder time you get from people. But my kids and that. I think it would have been a lot harder for them, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think it made certain things easier that Dad was actually quite good at stuff. I think that probably helped them, a wee bit.
Yep.
Yeah, because you do miss out on a lot. I've never been on a bike ride with my kids. I've never gone swimming with the kids without letting go at the side. Even my wife and my kids do a lot of things now at Christmas that I can't do, jet skiing and things like that. Yeah. And, you have to sit there and watch that. And that's no one's fault. But no. I never want to be one of those fathers that, only want to do the things that I could do, because all you're doing there is making your whole bloody family disabled. And I certainly don't want that.
Oh, mate. Sounds like you're an incredible husband and father in that respect.
Oh, I don't know about an incredible husband, but probably not a bad father. Yeah.
All right. So, are there any final plans? Is there any great adventures to come for the great Gary Endacott?
I'm never going to say never, but I'm not actively looking for anything. And I think the two question marks is obviously, what happens now with the Disabled League, which is, I super enjoyed. Yeah. And probably the biggest thing that I'm partly ticked off, but not ticked off, is I'd like to get into the public speaking on a bigger scale.
Oh, wow.
Not even necessarily just from a financial point of view, but I think that I've always made sure that my messages are applicable to all people, not just people with disabilities. And if I can make somebody's life a wee bit easier without them having to go through some of the shit that I've been through, and some of the stuff that people more affected by me, by disability, have been through, and people who had faced any sort of adversity, then that means they haven't gone through this for nothing. And I remember when we played against Australia in the final, they went round the dressing shed and they said to everyone, what's your motivation? And I said, mate, I'm here to pay every poor bugger back that's not in a position to do what we're doing, even at our level of disability. And that's how I show respect for people.
Awesome, man. That's so cool. Okay, so let's finish up with a few fun questions. Will the Warriors win the NRL in 2024?
No. No, but what I do hope for the Warriors is that when they do lose, they lose in a manner like they did last year.
Agreed.
And I really hope that they have another good, solid year. I'd hate to see them drop off after a thing. But where the Warriors have it hard is, they're a one-show pony. You've got, 5 Super Rugby sides? 2 of them will go shit every year and no one will say a thing.
That's fair enough.
But the Warriors go no good and everyone's onto them. But it was wonderful to see the whole country get behind the Warriors last year, because, they were the hottest ticket in town. And, and great to see the Kiwis do well as well. Because, I can only speak hypothetically, but, if I was playing for the Warriors, it'd be one thing. But there's nothing like representing your country. Doesn't matter how much money you get, there's nothing like representing your country.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe we need a South Island team? Are we finally ready for a South Island team to take the spotlight off the Warriors?
Well, this will surprise a lot of people. I'm actually not a fan of a South Island team.
Yeah.
No, I'm really not, and I'll tell you why. And when I say this is my point of view, not necessarily my father's, because sometimes when I talk about things, especially league, people will think it's Dad's point of view.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I don't know what his point of view is on this subject, but I think if we were to have a team in the South Island, I don't think we could sustain it. I don't think we could afford it. But most of all, I don't think there's enough players around that can play at that level. And even though it was a brilliant grand final last year, even bringing in the Dolphins, I believe that the standard of football, just generally, is not quite, what it would have been. And the same's happened with Super Rugby. Mm-hmm. There's only so many players that are capable of playing that level. And if you've got, 3 players and, some of the sides that are not quite as,
elite.
Good, elite, yep, that's the word I was looking for, then that's going to drop your standard. And if you look now, the only good side out of it is actually manufactured at probably a closer competition. But no, I think I've got a team too many already, and I'd rather see, because let's remember, it's not the Auckland Warriors, it's the New Zealand Warriors. Let's get that right before we look at a team from the South Island. But if we were capable of having a team out of the South Island, then look at the strength of our current competition, the amount of people playing Premier football or even playing Premier football throughout the country. It's not on the increase, it's on the decrease. So mate, I don't think it's a good idea, and I don't even think it's good for league. I'd love to, don't get me wrong, I'd love to say different, but I'm making this decision with my brain, not with my heart.
No, fair enough. That's totally fine. Good answer. So, what's your favourite TV show?
Coronation Street.
Oh my God, that's the third person who said that. That's amazing. Three out of the list so far. Okay. Last question. If you were on death row, what would your final meal be?
Steak, salad and chips.
Too easy.
Yeah.
It's too good, isn't it?
No eggs, mate. I don't like eggs.
Oh, brilliant, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, mate. Hey. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for all you're doing for the league community, and yes, pleasure to spend some time with you too. Thank you, mate.
Oh, man, it's a legend. Well, thank you to everyone watching at home. This has been the amazing, inspirational Gary Endacott. Make sure you get on all the platforms and follow the show and spread the word of Rugby League out there. We need to build the sport, and people like Gary, totally inspirational. So thanks very much, and we'll see you all next time for Kickoff.
Thank you. Full time.